Hi, hey, welcome to CKLU 96.7. This is your host, Jessica, from our Crater, reporting for another hour of Crater Conversations. So this is a show each week where we sit down with a different Sudburian of interest. We discuss their passions, their projects, what they're working on, and basically why Sudburians should know about them and the great work that they're doing in our community. So this week, no exception, we have on the show Amanda Kingsley Malo. So she is somebody who you might not recognize necessarily as for her political work. She is a teacher as well as her other regular job, I guess you could say. But she's moved on to bigger and better things here, and so she has founded Politics Now, so the NOW standing for Northern Ontario Women. So basically what she is all about is empowering women to feel like they can participate in the democratic process, that they can represent themselves, that they themselves can be change makers in their communities by participating in the whole process. So we're going to talk with her more about Politics Now and the work that they're doing. And remember as well, we're going to mention this a few times this show, June 7th is the provincial vote, so make sure that you check out all the information you need and get yourself informed to make a good vote. So without further ado, let's go into our interview here with Amanda. This week on Crater Conversations, we have a very exciting guest joining us today. Is Amanda Kingsley Malo. She is the organizer of an organization here locally called Politics Now. So Now standing for Northern Ontario Women. So all about encouraging women to participate in politics. And so we're going to talk a little bit this hour, get some political insight leading up to the election on June 7th. So to start things off, Amanda, can you tell us more about Politics Now and your mission?
Absolutely. So Politics Now was founded on International Women's Day in 2017, so we've been around for a year now. And our goal is to encourage and engage more women in Northern Ontario into municipal politics.
Okay, so particularly into the municipal area.
Yes, specifically municipal. One of the wonderful things about politics is that depending on what kind of party that you affiliate with once you become interested in politics, so say you want to do some volunteering for the Liberals, or maybe you want to volunteer for PC, those parties have money, and that money goes towards doing some training for volunteers and a lot of education-based training for people that are interested in politics for that specific party. Mm-hmm. One of the difficult things about municipal, though, is that if you've decided that you want to have an impact on your community and you think that the biggest impact that you can give right now is municipally, which is a wonderful thing to do, there is no training and there's very little money. And so you really have to rely on former councillors or other people that are involved in municipal politics. And traditionally, that's not a very fertile ground for women politicians. And so women have a little bit more difficulty finding mentors in municipal politics. So what we've decided and hope that we can do more effectively is give women the tools necessary to be able to run campaigns, to be able to volunteer on campaigns, specifically with a municipal bent. So we've come together as nonpartisan, really, because we've got different background training in our little board, I guess you could call it. So there's three of us that do the majority of the training right now and design all of the programming, and we all come from different parties. So it's truly like a well-rounded education, and we take the skills that we've gotten from working on different partisan campaigns, both federally and provincially, and we apply that to municipal politics. The other thing that is really specific to us is that it's in Northern Ontario. So those kinds of organizations exist kind of all over the place. There's organizations like Equal Voice, which does federal, provincial, and municipal. There is other organizations like Women in Politics London that is specifically to London, Ontario. There's even some that are out west, such as the Ask Her campaign that they had for the Calgary Council. But there was nothing specific to Northern Ontario. And anybody who's ever, done anything in Northern Ontario knows that we have to have our own spin on things, because it's quite a bit different than the resources that they give us from down south.
Now, I know that Politics Now hosts different workshops. So can you expand more on the different skills that you're teaching participants at these the Politics Now workshops?
Right, absolutely. So some of the things that we concentrate as far as we have like a condensed seminar basically. So we do it in one day, normally from like 10 to 3 or 10 to 4. And participants will participate in workshops that are given by us that are focused on how to build a successful team, how to go out and recruit volunteers, how to go ask for money. I mean, I'm sure that you know that is such a difficult task as it is, and women have much more of a difficult task ahead of them when they're asking for money because we hate asking for it. So we show them, like, this is how you're going to go out and you're going to fundraise. This is how you're going to go get donors. This is how you're going to get people on your team. We also have a social media component where we teach them how to properly use social media to their benefit for their campaigns, and a component where we actually help them train their volunteers.
Okay, absolutely. Wow, so it covers a lot of bases there.
It's kind of like a politicking 101.
Yeah.
I guess you could call it.
Sort of like an intro course.
Right, exactly. So it's just enough to scratch the surface that you leave feeling more confident that you could pull it off.
Okay.
And that if you're interested, then you're able to come to us and we can get a little bit more in-depth about whatever topic that you need help with. And we can direct you towards people that can help you and mentor you in those domains.
Wow. So in your experience engaging with different women in political discussions, do you find that there's a common attitude, there's no place for them, that it's a man's game?
Although I think that attitude is changing, I know that that's my own experience. When I've worked on campaigns before, I've often been the youngest person on the campaign. Sometimes I'm the only woman that's in the room. And that is difficult. And it's not always, while you're adding that perspective, it's not always easy to get people to see that you're adding that perspective and that perspective has worth. And that has a lot to do with the old boys club. And I don't think that anybody does it intentionally. I mean, all of the men that I have worked with in politics have been so incredibly encouraging and wonderful and really good about mentoring me and helping me out. And when I talk to them about politics now, they always want to give us, like, they tell me, like, give me a call. If there's anything that I can do, please let me know. I'd love to help. But I think it's important that we as women help and encourage each other. And I know that I myself find it a lot easier to hear from a woman, this is my experience, this is what it's been like for me in politics, this is likely what you're going to face, even with good intentions and the good intentions of others, and this is what you need to be ready for. Because our experience is definitely unique to us.
Oh, yeah.
And as I think it's so much more of a wonderful time to be a woman in politics because it almost feels like a new frontier. It's like all of a sudden women in politics is such an amazing buzzword, and people talk to me about it all the time, about like these hilarious, well-meaning men. They're so sweet, and they'll say, like, I heard that if you have one woman on a committee, she changes the direction of your committee. How great is that? And it's like, well, yeah, like, of course she does. She adds a new perspective.
Yeah,
she's a daughter. She's a mother. She's a sister. Like, she's been harassed when she walks down the street because she's a woman. Like, those are all new perspectives that are really important to developing policy. She has different medical needs than men do. That also has a huge impact on policy. When you really start breaking down the experience that women have that is unique to women, then you start thinking like, oh yeah, well, women have their period. That, like, hilariously, there needs to be some sort of legislation that helps with the cost of pads and tampons. Prior to, like, a couple of years ago, pads and tampons were taxed because they were considered a non-essential need.
Yes, a luxury.
Which is insane.
Which anyone who's experienced a period knows it's not a luxury experience.
It's not a luxury. Exactly. You need pads and tampons. Like, you need contraception. Like, you need all of those things. And having more women involved in our parliamentary discourse has pointed out that need that maybe they just didn't even notice. And I don't think that it's not malicious. It's just an oversight. Like, oh yeah, well, that makes a lot of sense. We probably shouldn't tax that product.
Yeah, I mean, if it doesn't affect their lives, then they don't consider it.
Exactly, and you can't blame anybody for making those mistakes. You can just ask for more diversity, and the more diversity that you have on Parliament Hill, that you have at the Ontario Legislative Hall, that you have in your municipal councils, the better.
And now, looking at politics now, at the statistics that you've assembled, out of 9 Northern Ontario cities, only 22% of council seats are held by women. So that obviously makes a huge difference in the direction that these councils are going.
Absolutely.
So what do you kind of hope to see do you hope to see there being a 50-50 split? Do you hope there just to see generally more women involved?
I think as far as setting goals, of course, we would want to see gender parity. But that is not always an easy thing to achieve right off the hop. More importantly, what we want to be able to see is that women who want to run for politics, for whatever seat, whether it's school board trustee, whether it's municipal, provincially, federally, we've had tons of women that have come to us in all of those respects, that they feel like they can do it and that they're ready and that they have the tools at their disposal to do so. I think once you give women that have the interest the tools, they will run. And what happens is that when you actually run, it's proven that women are just as successful as men who run for politics. They get elected just as often. It's just that less women run. Mm-hmm. And so you really need to evaluate why women aren't running. And one of them is, I don't know about you, but I know me, and that's kind of like where you get that idea. I don't like doing things that I don't feel confident and able to do.
Yeah,
I like feeling ready. I like studying. I like educating myself, reading some books, seeing the different approaches, and then doing the learn by trial and error, but having had some background to go in before, not just guns a-blazing, like, let me give this a shot and not know what I'm getting myself into. And I think a lot of women feel similarly.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. And especially wanting to be prepared as just one to generally be prepared for the activity that you're about to embark on, but also to know that you're going to be the minority and whether or not you have the confidence to stand up and be the minority.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That makes a huge difference in how you're going to function when you're running.
Yeah, for sure. So what are some ways that women in our area can start dipping their toes into getting engaged and making sure that their voice is part of the conversation?
So one of the suggestions that I've heard recently that I think is fantastic, and I think it's particularly useful for Sudbury, is that if you're interested politically and you want to run for office, but you're not quite sure if you want to run municipally, or if maybe you just want to get your toes wet this time, or you don't have a huge, like maybe you have young kids, so you don't have a huge time commitment. School board trustee is a fantastic, I guess we could call it entry-level politician job.
Okay.
And one of the really cool things about school board trustees, especially I think for women, is that often they are run unopposed.
Okay.
So if you want to run for a political position and do some light campaigning, you could run for school board trustee and often get elected because there's nobody else who ran against you, because people often don't know that that's a job that's available. And then you get to be involved in the overview of the school boards in your region. And what a wonderful role to have, especially as women, especially as mothers. You're having a direct impact on education. That's a great way to get involved. Otherwise, I would say if you know somebody who is an awesome, badass, total great woman who you think would be a great politician, you should ask her to be a politician. You should ask her to run for your ward, or you should ask her to run as MPP or MP, and then be prepared to ask her between 6 and 12 more times before she takes you seriously, but to make sure to keep asking and to keep encouraging. And then when that woman decides to run, help her out. Mm-hmm. Because I think that that's one of the things that we forget. I mean, I often get asked, like, hey, when are you running? And that's always my joke, like, well, whenever you sign my volunteer forms, because I can't do it alone.
Yes, that is very true.
You need a team, right? You need a team. And I think often people are deterred because they don't feel like they have a team at their disposal. And so if you really want to get involved in a woman's campaign, then you should. You should help them out. They need financial officers. They need people to knock on doors. They need people to run their Facebook pages. They need whatever time commitment, if it's 5 hours or if it's 20 hours a week that you have to give, even if it's an hour to make phone calls, that would be fantastic. The other really wonderful way to give is to give them money. They don't typically tend to go after larger donors and find women find it a little bit easier to go and ask family and friends for a little bit of money for their campaigns, and so small donors are their big ticket money. And so if you really believe in somebody's campaign, then you should absolutely give money to them, and then that'll enable them to go out and get signs. That'll enable them to hire whatever that they need to business cards, like. They need those little, like, oh, sorry, we missed you notes when they go to the door to knock on a door and nobody's home. Mm-hmm. That all takes money.
Yeah, no, that's not free.
Absolutely. So those are some really wonderful ways to get involved. Otherwise, just reading the city council minutes is a great way to know what's going on in your town or your city. Because you don't have to be a politician to read those notes. Those are available to you as just on the internet. I mean, anybody in the entire world can look up Greater City or the City of Greater Sudbury and look for the minutes on City Council and read all of those notes. And that's a really great way to just stay in touch, stay involved, and know what's going on at the heartbeat of your city.
Yeah. Wow. So that's we've got some great information here. So we're going to cut to some music, and then we'll be right back, and we're going to talk a little bit more about the upcoming provincial election. Hey, welcome back to the studio here at CKLU 96.7. It is a beautiful day here downtown. It's kind of hard to believe that just a few weeks ago we were worried about snow. We were wondering if the snow was ever going to leave. But we are definitely not complaining about that these days. So now the nice weather is here. There's plenty of events going on downtown. So shout out for this weekend. Downtown is definitely the place to be. If you were downtown last weekend, you would have made it to the downtown Sudbury yard sale. It was a great turnout for that, even though it was a little damp. That's okay. If you were brave, you realized it actually wasn't that bad. So you missed out if you didn't. This weekend will be Saturday, June 2nd. There is We Think Green is having their Earth Day Festival at Memorial Park. So that is going to be all day, all afternoon. Lots of fun stuff for kids to do. Lots of great organizations for you to talk to and find out what work they're doing in our community to help make Sudbury a little more green. As well, this weekend is the very first weekend of the Greater Sudbury Farmers Market. So you can check that out at the Via Rail station on the corner of Elgin. They've got all sorts of different vendors, and as well, they're bringing back this year the York Street location that they tried out for a little test drive last year, June 9th. That is going to be their first year at the York Street location. So if you want to hit that up before camp, before you make your special little long weekend, that's a perfect stop. As well, Makers North, their spring market is at the MacEwan School of Architecture on Saturday, and if you've been checking out their page, if you're subscribed to their event, if you haven't checked it out yet, definitely go. They've been teasing with so many different vendors that they have in for this show, and it looks like it's going to be a great event, so definitely looking forward to that. So as well, Townhouse, they've always got something going on here. So on Saturday night there's a show with Almighty Rhombus. So it's Almighty Rhombus, Bike Thieves, and Shaky Stars. So we're going to play a song from two of those bands. So we're going to play the Almighty Rhombus, Sun It Shines. Right after that we will have Tonight by Shaky Stars, and then on the coming up as well is a band called Pacers that is going to be performing at the Townhouse. So we're going to play a song by them as well called Bangers. So hang tight, we're going to go right into that. Thanks for tuning in to Creator Conversations presented by Our Creator. We can't play the music right here, but check out below for the link to this week's playlist, as well as all the links you need for this week's guest. Make sure you're subscribed to Our Creator on all your feeds. Look us up on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, all under Our Creator, and use the hashtag Our Creator to be featured. Hey there, welcome back to CKLU 96.7. So we are live for Creator Conversations here this hour. This is presented by Our Creator. So if you haven't checked out ourcreator.com, that's OURCRATER. You can check that out for all sorts of news updates about different things that are happening in your community. So taking a look at the homepage here, we've got a roundup of Sudbury's best patios. We also have the top 5 best burgers in Sudbury. Did you know yesterday was National Burger Day? Well, if you missed it, it's never too late to celebrate, I'd say. We've also got an update. Our latest series we've been working on is Maker Monday. So we've been featuring every Monday a different maker from our community. So this week was Forever Baby and Kids. So lots of really cute children's apparel and accessories. So that's pretty exciting. We also spoke recently with Selena Rose. We talked with her with Eats in Asana. Got all sorts of information about her book that she just released, Canada Learning Code. We did a feature on them. We also run a monthly series with the Greater Sudbury Public Library, so we have an update for their book talk series where we talk to Jeff McIntyre about some of the from Fuel Multimedia, and he's also the chair of Downtown Sudbury, the board of directors for that organization. So talk to him about all the different books that inspire him, that he keeps his brain ticking. So lots of great stuff that you can find as well. And make sure you subscribe to us on Instagram, on Facebook, and on Twitter to make sure you get all sorts of content from us straight to your news feed. So we're always working hard to make sure that you are informed of what there is going on in your city. So this hour we have been talking with Amanda Kingsley Malo, who is the founder of the organization Politics Now. So Now standing for Northern Ontario Women. And if you listened to the first hour, the first half, we talked a lot about the organization and all the different things that they're doing to encourage women to participate in the democratic process and participate locally and municipally in politics. This half, we're going to talk a little bit more about the upcoming provincial election. So that is coming up June 7th. So make sure that you are registered, or make sure you at least know where your local polling station is so you can register on the spot. Check out, there's lots of great information out there. Check out all the different candidates, see who really aligns with what you believe in. And we're going to talk more about some of the things that you should be thinking about, some of the things that should be going through your mind. And what is an MP versus an MPP? I don't know, but let's find out. So listen in, we're going to talk with Amanda, and we'll be back to close out the show shortly as well. This hour, we've been talking with Amanda Kingsley Malo. So, Amanda, we've talked to you a lot about Politics Now in our first half, but we do want to get some information about the upcoming provincial election. So that is coming up on June 7th. So if you're not registered, make sure to check that you are, or show up at your local polling station to register on the spot. But I know many Sudburyans are wondering where they should cast their vote, and they're starting to kind of think of weigh their options. So to start things off, can you give us a really brief breakdown on the four big parties and kind of what their essentially their mission is?
Oh, geez, that's really that's like a loaded partisan question. I mean, really, when you look at it, if you look at it in a political breakdown, if you want to maybe split it in half, and then you look, you've got a right side that tends to be more fiscally and socially conservative, and then you can call it the left side of that half would be tend to be more fiscally and socially liberal. And so on the right side of that half that tends to be more fiscally and socially conservative, you would have the PC party that is being headed by Doug Ford this term. And on the other side, you would have most of the other parties. Okay. So that's where you would find the Liberals with Kathleen Wynne. That's where you'd find NDP with Andrea Horvath. And that's also where you'd find the Green Party as well.
Okay. And so who are our local candidates for the parties?
It depends on what part of the city that you live in.
Okay, right.
So if you live in the Sudbury Core itself, you could be voting for Glenn Thibeault, who is your member of parliament or provincial parliament currently. He's a member of the Liberal Party. He's also the Minister of Energy. And you could be voting for Jamie West, who's NDP, or Troy Crowder, who is the candidate for PC.
Okay. Perfect.
But if you live in Nickel Belt, which would be the outlying areas of Sudbury, you would be voting for different candidates. There's Franz Schillena, who is the current MPP. There's also Tay Butt, and I'm not sure who the PC nominee is on that side. I know that it was a little bit later this year.
Okay.
That they had done their nominee process. So I know that it's a woman, though.
Oh, well, that's perfect.
Yeah, I found that super interesting. So I know that it's a woman, but they did their nomination process much later in the year. So I want to say it was May when she emerged as the local candidate, so I've not had the pleasure of meeting her yet.
So now when we're talking about this election, we're talking a lot about MPs and MPPs, so member of parliament versus member of provincial parliament. So where do these roles differ as far in the whole process?
So your MPP works for the provincial government, and your MP works for the federal government, or is not works for, but is your representative at the provincial and federal level. So your MPP would be you would go to him or her when you have a problem with something that is provincially related, so a service that's provincially related, and that would include things like healthcare or education. Whereas your federal MP is things that fall under the federal jurisdiction. So when you want your passport renewed, you go see currently either Mark Serre or you go see Paul Lefebvre. And that's kind of how it divides up. So you're a member of provincial parliament, especially given the nature of what our province does for us, and that they have those big dossiers like education, like healthcare. It's incredibly important to find a party that aligns with your views so that your views are accurately represented at the provincial parliament level.
At the provincial level. So speaking of essentially issues, so what are some of the key issues that as you're kind of deciding where to cast your vote that you should be looking into for the different parties?
Well, it really, I would say, depends on where your priorities lie. And that can depend entirely on your life experience and where you are in your life at that moment. I know that the priorities that I had 10 years ago certainly don't align with the priorities that I have currently. I mean, I'm a new mom, and I'm a teacher, and I'm a wife, and I really take all of those things into consideration when I'm thinking about casting my ballot. I'm also incredibly interested in making sure that everybody has just an equal life experience and has the opportunity, like everybody has equal opportunities available to them. So that also has a bearing on when I cast my vote. But that might not necessarily be the priorities that you have when you're casting your vote. Maybe your hydro bills are really weighing on you right now, and you're keeping that in mind when you're voting. Or maybe you are caring for an elderly parent, and the nursing homes and the state of the nursing homes or the state of the healthcare is something that is your biggest priority. So it entirely depends on what your priority is. There is this really fantastic resource that the CBC releases every election period, both provincially and federally. It's called Vote Compass.
Okay.
And Vote Compass brings you through, I believe it's a series of 20 questions, maybe it's 30 questions. And so it helps you figure out what your priorities are. So it asks you questions like, it's not questions, but more like statements. So it'll say,
on a scale of
1 to 5, how important is this part to you? And so you will answer that, and it gives you a whole bunch of different options. And then at the end, it'll show you where you are on that right to left scale. Okay. And it'll say your values are most like the Liberal parties, or your values most align with the Conservative Party. And so it gives you a really good overview of what the major issues are for each party and where they stand on each party, on each issue, so that you can more effectively make a decision.
So that's a really helpful tool for sure.
It really is. Of course, it's not the only thing either, right? In Northern Ontario, we're in a very unique position. Prior to, in Sault Ste. Marie, they just elected they had a by-election a couple of years ago, or not even a couple of years ago, I think a couple months ago, and they elected a member of the Conservative Party to Parliament, and that was the first time that a member of the PC provincials had been elected in Northern Ontario north of Barrie in over 30 years.
Oh, wow.
Which is a huge statistic.
Yeah, no, for sure.
And depending on where you live, so say you tend to align yourself with, I don't know, the Green Party, but you want to make sure that a specific person doesn't get voted in locally, well, then you might decide to vote for a different party if that's the way that you're voting. And some people decide to vote strategically that way instead.
Yeah, so you can really toss your vote in many different ways, really, depending on what your priorities are.
Exactly.
So this is a big year, actually, for women in politics. So not only do we have two of the major four parties both have female leaders. So we have Andrea Horwath at the helm of NDP Party, and we have Kathleen Wynne for the Liberal Party. But we also, if you've been following the news, Karina Gold is a cabinet minister, and she just actually was the very first cabinet minister to ever take a maternity leave and returned to cabinet last week with her 5-month-old son, Oliver. So how does this make you feel about the future of women in politics moving forward?
I think it's so incredibly important just to show women that they can take maternity leave for this kind of job. I mean, women know that maternity leave is a fight that did not come easy. It took legislators, and it takes legislators to make that kind of thing happen. And the fact that nobody had ever taken maternity leave on Parliament Hill lends to a few different demographics. First, the fact that Minister Gold is a woman, of course, like as a woman, she would be more likely to take maternity leave, but also that she's so young. And I think that we're increasingly seeing a more diverse population realize that their voices are incredibly important to our parliamentary process and that they need to be represented at Parliament to ensure that their perspectives are heard and met. And so I think that this is not only just encouraging for women, but for young people in general, who are finally starting to get more and more involved in politics. And you see more people under 30 that are running for office than I'm sure that you ever have before. I know that I remember when I was in university, there was which at this point is already 10 years ago, there was university students that were running for NDP, the NDP party in Quebec as MPs that had gotten elected, and they hadn't even finished their second year of university. Like, that's amazing.
Wow. Yeah.
So you want to talk diversity of age, that's a really great one. You're also seeing more minorities that are putting their names out and forth so that they can run for office. And those are very, very badly needed voices in our government, at all levels of government.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's not just women. We need minorities. We need differently abled people. We need LGBTQ people to get involved. All of those different perspectives just make for a more diverse parliament, make for a more diverse government and more diverse legislation, and really more accurately reflect our population.
Yeah, it's true. Like they say, the mixing bowl, right? So our cabinet really should represent a mixing bowl of the population, right?
Absolutely.
That makes a lot of sense. All right. So thanks so much today for talking with us and giving us the lowdown.
No, thanks.
Can you give us
awesome.
one last hit where people can find more information about Politics Now?
Absolutely. So you can follow us on Facebook. It's at Politics Now. We're also on Twitter and Instagram. Same thing, at Politics Now. Our handle on Twitter and Instagram is at polynow.org, or you can find us on our website, which is www.polynow.org. And feel free to contact us in any way that you prefer. We would love to have a chat with you about politics.
Thank you so much.
No problem. Thank you.
Hey, welcome back to the studio on CKLU 96.7. So this hour we have talked with Amanda Kingsley Malo, who is the founder of Politics Now. So in this hour we've talked a lot about the different projects that Politics Now is involved in, different ways that you can get involved, and the work that they're doing to promote women in Northern Ontario participating in the political process, and how important that is to diversify councils. Now, as well, I want to correct myself. Earlier in the last chunk of the interview, I said Karina Gold, that she had come back from a 5-month maternity leave. It was 10 weeks. So that is just over 2 months. So, I mean, I'm not a parent, but anyone who's out there who's a parent, imagine going back to work 10 minutes after giving birth. That's That's some real dedication. So way to go to Karina. She's definitely setting some milestones in the house. So this hour we're going to continue on to a last bit of music here. So we're going to do a special 3-track lineup for Vintage Prom. So that is coming up June 9th at the Caruso Club. There are still some tickets available. $60 I believe it is for the full evening, including a sit-down dinner and the dance. There's going to be live music. There's going to be tintype photography. There will be a camera crew there to take pictures as you arrive. You can come decked out in your best vintage outfit. It's going to be a real blast. We cannot wait. There's so many exciting vintage cocktails, and I'm really excited to see what outfits everybody is going to come up with. So that's coming up on June 9th. So to get you into the mood, we've got a playlist here. We're going to do Come See About Me by the Supremes, Sherry by Frankie Valli and the Four Seasons, and The Way You Do the Things You Do by the Temptations. Thanks for tuning in to Creator Conversations presented by Our Creator. We can't play the music right here, but check out below for the link to this week's playlist, as well as all the links you need for this week's guest. Make sure you're subscribed to Our Creator on all your feeds. Look us up on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, all under Our Creator, and use the hashtag Our Creator to be featured. Hey, welcome back to the studio, CKLU 96.7. So we're almost done our hour here for Creator Conversations. This hour we've talked with Amanda Kingsley Malo. If you've been listening for the whole hour, you heard lots of information about politics now and the exciting work that they're doing to encourage more women to participate in politics at the municipal level. And also we got a little bit of a rundown on some of the things that you should be thinking about leading up into the provincial election coming up June 7th. So definitely make sure that you are informed. Make sure you know where your polling station is. Mark it on your calendar. Definitely something that you want to make sure that you participate in. Your voice needs to be heard. So we have quite a few events coming up here downtown. So we talked earlier about some of the events going on downtown. So here's a refresher. If you are looking for something to do on Saturday, downtown is the place to be. There is the Spring Makers North Market happening at the MacEwan School of Architecture. They've been posting all sorts of stuff about all the fun, different things they're going to have at the store. They're going to have out all the different makers they're going to be hosting this time. So definitely excited to check that out. It has been a long time since we've seen Makers North, and I can't wait. So we've also got the grand opening of the Greater Sudbury Market at the Via Rail Station. So that is on Saturday as well. Check that out for all your fresh fruits, fresh veggies, all your local produce and grocery needs. So there's going to be lots of fun stuff there, and I believe music as well. On Saturday, check out Memorial Park. Rethink Green is hosting their annual Earth Day Festival. So they'll be taking over the park with all sorts of different activities, lots of fun stuff for kids, lots of stuff for families, music, and different demonstrations from all sorts of different organizations that are doing great work to regreen our city. So definitely show your support. Make your way down to downtown to check out all those things. You can have a great day downtown. And there's patios as well. If you check ourcreator.com, we've got a roundup of some of the best patios in the city, so see how many you can hit in one day. As well, we've just played a lineup of some vintage tunes that you might get to hear at Vintage Prom. That is coming up on June 9th. So Swingin' on a Star, Vintage Prom. That's presented by Starlit Satine Vintage, as well as Sudbury Burlesque. So they're doing some great work. They're really close to sold out. So if you think you want to make it and you want to be able to sit with your friends for the dinner, make sure you definitely get your tickets as soon as you can. Tables of 8. So if you have a big group, your time is running out here. As well, they are going to be selling dance-only tickets. So if going for dinner isn't quite your speed, $30 gets you in starting at 8 p.m. for the dance portion only. So it's another option as well if you're thinking that you might like to go but aren't quite sure about the ticket price or aren't quite sure about the food options. But it's going to be a real blast, and I'll be there. I hope to see you there. and it'll be really cool to see how many people are going to show up to a vintage event and what kind of outfits are they going to show up in. I can't wait. So we're going to sign off for this hour here. Remember as well, check back on ourcreator.com where we'll be posting this episode and all of our past episodes, including one with Starlet Dresden from Starlet Satine Vintage, if you're interested in taking a listen to that one. But signing off for this week, we'll see you again next Tuesday.